Hello, Sisi. Sunil here.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hi.
All right. While waiting for others, I'm just playing some of the farm videos.
Hello, Srikanth. How are you?
I'm good. How are you all? I'm just playing some
I'm good.
farm videos. I'm waiting for others.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Sadashiv. I am from New Jersey, basically, but I'm following you all the way. So,
Thank you. That's
yeah. Yeah.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Let me see how
We
many.
can see the thumbnails of your videos.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Do you see any red line on the screen?
Yeah, we see the red curved line.
Oh, line. I wonder where that's coming from.
I thought I drew the line. I tried. No, it is not mine.
Okay. Okay. Let me see that. Okay, I think that's gone away. Let's see how many have joined. We have about 18 participants, and then we're at 4 minutes into the meeting. Let's go ahead. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm just going to play a couple of videos just for the new people who have come in, especially some of our farms and how they look like, and then we'll start with our discussion here. Great, so let's get started. So how many of you are already in my group who have already invested? Okay, looks like everybody are new. That's good. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, Srikanth. Yeah.
Right. All right, we'll get started. Some of legal disclaimers I need to make because I'm presenting this model, and this in no way is a discussion to ask you to invest. This is only an explanation of the model. We will get into the actual investments as and when we have the proper documentation with SEC file. Before we get into this, my name is Sashikant Valem. I have been doing gardening and farming for past 10 years. Professionally, have done farming back in India before I moved to US in 2016. Our farms back in India are continuing with our partners there. We're into high-tech hydroponics, growing color capsicum bell peppers. We grow them hydroponically in greenhouses. That's my background. I'm also an IT consultant working full-time and doing this along with our jobs. And very soon, I'm looking forward to get into this full-time. Some of general disclaimers. The first one we are starting is stop, do not invest if you're not ready for your high risks and high gain AgTech startup model. I will be sharing this presentation. Please read through the rest of them. In a simple words, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a long-term investment that we're getting into, and farming as such is a patient game. Yeah, but at the same time, we also talk about how we are ensuring that every dollar that is invested into the farming, into the project that we are doing is safe, and how we are trying to minimize the risks. And continuation of the disclaimers, there's a high risks and possibility of low returns, complete losses in farming. Please invest the right amount into farming business only if you are prepared for this. Having said that, company is structured with strategies of 50% investment into appreciating safe and land assets. Though this gives great risk mitigation, there is no guarantee of appreciation in the event like recession and real estate slump. Cost of execution of the project and working capital spend may eat up the land appreciation too. The reason I'm making all this disclaimers is that I don't want anybody to come in with the expectation that you're going to get year on year 20-30% of returns. But at the same time, we'll also talk about how we are structuring our farming model, wherein we are mitigating all the risks and planning to make profits. Let's get into the actual discussion here. Here is our mission statement. While it's completely highly aspirational, we want to be an AgTech listed company in the US and want to ring the bell in NASDAQ by 2027 with about 40 million USD valuation. That might be low, but then nothing stops us from getting into that and achieving that. There are a few aspects that we are trying to invest into. We're investing into the farm real estate for appreciation, and we will be investing into cutting-edge technologies like tissue culture, greenhouse farming, vertical farming, and many other aspects of the farming which are highly profitable, along with nurseries. And we're getting into the farmhouse and farm vacation rentals and profitable tropical crop farming. As you know, we don't get sitafal, we don't get mango very easily within the US. That the reason for that is they are very highly perishable, and getting it all the way from India to here. Some of them are allowed, some of them are not allowed. For the past 2 years, mangoes were not allowed. They're allowing it now because of COVID. So there are multiple reasons why growing here in the US is highly profitable. These are the different lines of business we'll get into. And yeah, these are the actual lines of businesses. One is agriculture land investment for appreciation. Let's take a deeper dive into each of them. Especially, we are focusing on Florida. Many have asked how about other states like Texas and many other places, but then we are currently focusing only in Florida. Some of the reasons being Florida lands are available for interesting price because of the orange industry, which is famous in Florida, is not doing really well because of a citrus greening disease. And lands are available for an interesting price point. And farmers are not continuing with the farming, especially with citrus. Many are opting out. But at the same time, we are venturing into farming by buying those lands because we have ideas of growing alternate crops. Also, one of the trend is that farmers have, average farmer is 60+ year old. None of the new farmers are coming in. Everybody is getting into the white collar jobs and many other jobs, but not into farming because it's hard work, and there are issues because of the diseases, and risk appetite has become quite low. We find it as an opportunity because we have ways to handle those risks. And we are getting into tropical crops farming like sitafal, mango, moringa, sapota, guava, and multiple other things. The reason we are picking up these crops are that not everybody is growing. Tomatoes are grown by many people, cucumbers, beans, they're all grown by many people, but not these crops. That's why we are focusing on these tropical crops, which are in high demand and low supply. And we'll be getting into nursery business. Nursery are like growing the trees for sale, growing the ornamental crops for sale, like your jasmine plants, parijat, and many other plants. That's a nursery business. And we'll be getting into the retail specialty tropical stores across various cities within the US. The idea is to have specialty stores that sells fresh fruits and vegetables along with plants. That's one of the line of business for us. And trading, Indian vegetable trading and distribution across US. There are very few companies, I would say, when you say few, under 10 companies, which are enjoying at least $500 million of this industry. Looking at the number of people, Indians within the US, and the demand for fruits and vegetables, this is a very good area for us to be venturing into. Hospitality, we're creating farm experience vacation rentals like Airbnb, but specialty with farm experience. And also the real estate is a primary focus for us. When I say real estate, all the farmlands that we are investing, at some point, we would be converting them into the residential communities and we would be selling them. So while we purchase the land, we wait for the complete real estate appreciation, we perform all these different line of business in the middle and make profits. These are the different lines of business here. Before I move forward, let me take any questions.
Sasi, this is Sunil. Quick question. When you say real estate, that's still hinges around a farming-based community, right?
That's right. That's right. So good question. We're also finding as we are getting into the farming in these areas of Florida, we're also coming across certain other real estates like apartment rentals and few other interesting propositions. So we would also consider that, but at this point, we haven't concluded on that. The basic idea is that we want to diversify to an extent where any of the risks that we are putting into some of these businesses, we want to mitigate with some of the sure shot appreciation oriented businesses. One of our advantage would be the capital that we are raising from investors. And if we are able to increase that capital, if we are able to mitigate the risks, we would get into some of those non-farming real estate also. But that's some decision which we would take over a period of time. So, yeah.
Is it like an alternate plan for becoming a listed company, or?
I'm sorry?
Is this an alternate plan for going public?
Not an alternate plan. We would go for the public with all this line of business.
Okay. Well, it's just not just AgTech. Okay, both are good.
Yeah. So that's the reason we're saying we would try to be as much in the AgTech area, but if there are some places where we could diversify and make some money and mitigate on some risk, we would consider that.
Sure.
As you're aspiring to get into this 40 million AgTech company.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you well. Can you repeat that, please?
Are you able to hear me now?
Not really well, not clear.
How about now?
Yeah, this is better.
Okay, yeah. So as you're aspiring to become this 40 million AgTech company, right? So see, who do you perceive as your direct competition here?
In a good way, there are not many, but at the same time, there are companies. I wouldn't consider them to be competitors. I would consider them to be motivators and somebody whom we can look up for. There are Fresh Greens in Florida, which is a company which got into, which is still a private equity, but it funded at $40 million last year. These are all the greenhouse farming with hydroponics. And we're seeing multiple other companies which are valued at multi-billion dollars and then getting funded. So these are all the motivators for us. In terms of competition, especially in some of the areas, there's still a lot of room for many people to come in. I wouldn't really call them as competitors there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if you look at the area of trading, there are a handful of, I can talk about 6 to 7 major 3 to 4 people, but then a couple of smaller ones. But then there's a lot of room for us to get in and then capture the market there. And I would love to make an interactive session, so please feel free to ask questions.
Considering, we are calling this an AgTech company, are you also envisioning getting into R&D for seeds and things like that?
Not for the seeds. We're trying to get into the tech-based in the farm area. The IoT devices, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and many other of those areas, hydroponic farming, greenhouse farming. And some of the research, we may or may not get it directly into the research aspects of it, but over a period, as and when we move forward, if there are opportunities that comes up, we will capture them. And we're trying to look into the IoT devices area. We've started using some of the IoT devices and identifying some of the real life issues with them. And while we are using them, if we are able to get into any ideas to fix those issues and make it as a product, we would love to do that. One of the AgTech, I wouldn't really call it as the high tech, but then it's like tissue culture. Tissue culture is the biotech aspect of it, wherein in the nursery business, when we are trying to propagate new plants, we would be using tissue culture technologies there. May not be deep into the R&D aspects of it in terms of seeds, in terms of fertilizers or pesticides.
And sorry, speaking of the nursery business, right? Do you perceive yourself as the primary supplier of the plants, or are you going to be in the middle between someone else who's going to give you, the seedlings or saplings, and you're distributing it to the customer? Where do you see that, in the nursery business?
It's in both areas. So one of the new farm that we are buying, it's 35 acres with 5 acres of greenhouse. Once we close that, we are looking at converting 1 acre into the complete seedling and propagation unit. So that's where we would have the high production of these trees and plants. While we continue with that, we would also partner with other growers and give them contracts to grow the crops that we would like, and then we get into the trading aspect there. So we will be doing.
What about the procurement? What about the procurement of the seeds? Are you planning to get it from India, do it yourself? I mean, what's your plan there?
In terms of, I also have a business which is about selling seeds in the US, where I bring these seeds from India. So we would collaborate with that business, wherever we need seeds. But then our main focus would not be on the seedlings. But the seedlings are very specific, smaller area of focus, and shipping them across is a major issue. So if at all we see that it's going to be feasible and making business sense, we would get into seedlings. But the seeds are already being imported. I've been doing it for past 2 to 3 years. IndianPlantsandSeeds.com is I'm the one of the founder in that. So our primary focus in the nursery would be tree crops, like your mango, grafted mangoes, multiple tropical trees grafting, ornamental plants like jasmines, parijat, and many other plants. So that's where we would be focusing on. Any more questions on the lines of business?
What would be the, you said, sorry, I think there's some echo.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Are you guys able to hear me well?
Yeah, Nagaraj, right?
Yeah. So you said some flowers also, right? Do we see some high potential there?
I wouldn't call it as the extreme high potential in terms of the volume, but then there is a gap in the industry for that, especially if I'm targeting the Indian community. Growing the different varieties of jasmines and specialty trees that we used to have back in India, there is a big gap. So that's what we're getting into there.
From where you are planning to get those tropical plants, flower plants, Shashi?
Many of them are available here, so we would be propagating them from those mother trees there.
Because I see them, I see that the demand for these parijat and jasmines, it was there a couple 2 years back, but then many small like nurseries, not in Indian nurseries, they started selling those.
Right.
So
So
what do you think people would come to our place to,
So the way
to
we
buy
should
those?
this particular demand is, these are all specialty plants. So there are very less people who are selling them. We would like to be able to make them available in major cities, and so that people could buy that. So we are not putting a lot of bets onto this area. Our major focus is going to be in the tropical crops and land acquisition, the retail aspect of it. In the retail, this is where we will put the nursery plants. We would also be growing non-Indian nursery plants also, because we will have a large capacity of growing. So Indian ornamentals would be one of the aspects there.
Okay.
So
Thank
I would, if I have to put a number, just the ornamental plants itself could be about $100,000 in a year, which is still a big number for us. All right, so let me move on. In terms of the investment snapshot for 2022, the way we are structuring the organization is there are investors who are coming in, who would come in and buy the shares of the company. We created a C Corp, and investors would be buying the shares in the company. In the year 2022, we're raising a total of 6 million capital. We're dividing them into multiple phases. We haven't got into the price round yet. So far, we have raised the 1.5 million in a promissory note, where we're just a lending. We are taking the money on interest, and then we are starting with our business. So let's call it as a seed lending. And then once we have the SEC documentation ready, we will actually open it for capital, open it for a price round. So far, we have raised 1.5 million in the phase 1 with the promissory note, and we have commitment for 950K in the phase 2. Phase 2 would be another one, would be 1.5 million. Phase 3 and 4 would be 1.5 million each. So we will have a total of 6 million raised this year. So we have already 39 investors who have given us the money in promissory note in the phase 1, and 27 investors so far in phase 2. This is how we are going to we are raising the money here. All right. This is our farmland snapshot. We have already purchased 30 acres of land in Lake Wales. We spent about $405,000, and this is highly promising real estate appreciating land. Initially, we thought we would have our sugar apple, sitafal farm here, but looking at the potential of the land appreciation, we do not want to plant long-term crops. We also have bought 100 acres of citrus grove in Fort Pierce, and here is where we are focusing all our tropical fruits to be. This one, the 30 acres, we would hold on in terms of a real estate appreciation, and at the right time, depending on the situation, we may consider selling for a higher profits.
Shashi, Shashi, the price of the second one is not 4015, right?
The cow cut and paste cow issue there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pramod. Perfect. So this is where we are, and the 30 acres is already getting annexed into the city this year. So we're not spending any more money in terms of getting it annexed. So we're waiting for the city to automatically annex, and neighboring lands have already got annexed. So we would wait on it and enjoy the appreciation there. And we're just maintaining the grove to get the exemption from the government, and we have the trees there. It's producing a little bit, but then, as I mentioned earlier, citrus is not making any money in the Florida, and so we're not expecting any revenue or profit out of that. Whatever we're getting in terms of revenue, that's enough for maintaining that. So in the 100 acres is where a lot of action is, where we're planting a lot of sitafal, mango, and many other crops. And along these two are completely closed. Starting February, we closed both these lands in Feb, and we are in contract for this 34.65 acres in Okeechobee at a $1.5 million, and it's under contract. We are done with the due diligence, and we would be closing this land in 6 weeks from now. And this is the land where we have 5 acres of greenhouses. 5 acres of greenhouse is a huge infrastructure. In simple words, it's giving the current seller $1.2 million of revenue with about 320 or 350K of profitability. So we're going to take over the infrastructure as it is, and we will continue growing cucumber in 4 acres. In 1 acre, we would go ahead with nursery and many other crops in this area. We'll also be getting 2 homes wherein we would use them for vacation rentals and many infrastructure available there with the packing house and everything there. Any questions here? And there are many people who have joined for the first time. Some of the points that I am talking in, considering that many of you have understood the model before. If there are any basic questions in terms of how this model works, feel free to ask me about them.
Yeah, so say we are joining now, it doesn't matter whatever is closed, it doesn't matter, or does that matter?
It doesn't matter at all. That's the beauty of this entire model. As an investor, you would be buying the shares in C Corp. C Corp owns all these properties. So you would be shareholder of each and every property and business that the C Corp owns.
Okay. Now, second question is how it would be different, like versus the one who has invested earlier versus
It's a very good question.
versus phase 2.
So we talked about multiple phases, right? The price per share for a phase 1 would be lower compared to phase 2 and so 3 and 4, which means whoever have invested for the money, they would get more shares compared to the next rounds. That's how they would get a benefit of it.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Initially, I started with a simple LLC model, one project in Lake Wales. Then I realized, the initial idea was that we will create multiple LLCs for each and every project. So imagine a situation, one of the LLC is making good money because of multiple factors. The other LLC is not making good profits. Though investors into the LLC that is not making profits would always have an issue. So with this model, we have diversification. We have assets in different locations. We have multiple lines of businesses. And my focus would be in all across them so that we will not have risks, or though we have risks, we would be mitigating these risks with the diversification. And this is a very complex model, and we are spending a lot of time and money with the attorneys, but I want to get into this model just to ensure that we are able to scale up. Only with this model, we will be able to get into the public listing company over a period of time. With LLCs, that would become very difficult. It's not impossible, but it would get very difficult over a period of time.
Shashi, on this one, on the third option, I would assume that that particular piece of land is under like an agriculture zone or something like that, right? Do you foresee running into some issues with building any homes and stuff there?
Yes. So the homes are already existing. There are 2 homes already there, and all these lands are zoned agriculture. And all the agricultural lands, you can build 1 home in every 5 acres. Right, so we don't plan to build more than that, more than the given permitted amount of homes. If at all we get into that, we will ask for zoning change. We would ask for high density, and then we will get into that. But then the expectation is not to build 1 home per acre here. That's not an expectation at this point of time. But 10 years down the line, if the city grows, and then if these lands get into the city, and if we get into the high density approvals, yes, we would use them as the community building or real estate appreciating, and we can break those lands and then sell them at a profit.
But by that time, there will be crops there, right? How do we plan? Like,
that's a business decision. Look at a scenario. We have greenhouses. 15 years down the line, we have built or we have made money out of them. And real estate, at this point, let's say it's about $20,000 per acre, and there it becomes $300,000 per acre. Now we're talking about 15 times increase, and in 15 years we made good money, and then we found it makes sense for us to sell this land. Yeah, we will do that. The crops, yeah, I mean, the way we are pushing off is a word used for removing the trees. We can always do that. We can clear the land, we can build communities, we can do many things there. But it would be an issue, let's say, if we spend a lot of money, grow sitapal now, in 5 years down the line, if we have to cut them off, we will be wasting a lot of money. We will not do that. Does it make sense, Uma?
Yeah, thank you.
Shashi, this is Riaz.
Hey, Riaz.
Quick question on the price per acre for the Okeechobee property. Is it because of the improvement compared to, let's say, the Lake Wales, the price differential? Is it because of the greenhouse and the
That's because of the
upgrades that are there?
Only because of the greenhouse and the infrastructure. So to talk about the infrastructure, it has 5 acres of greenhouse. To build a greenhouse, it takes about $600,000 in the current market. And so that we're talking about $3 million if you have to build a similar greenhouse. But these are all the old greenhouses. So in terms of depreciation, the owner have done the business, he has enjoyed the returns, and now he's retiring. So the way I look at it is, if I have to buy the land and build 5 acres of greenhouse, the outflow would be $3 million. But now with this land, we are getting an opportunity to start making money upfront in this year itself, and then continue this over a period of time. That's the reason we are spending a lot of money there on that.
Good.
And it also has 2 double-wide mobile homes, which if we have to buy now, costing about $150,000 each, and the effort of building them, the time and everything, so we're saving a lot. We're actually picking up an existing business. We're not buying the business, but we're picking up the entire infrastructure to run that business and get the revenue and profit. And that's an opportunity cost, which we are paying onto this.
And Sashi, generally everything is in good working condition?
All these greenhouses, some of them are built in 1989 and the others in 2001. So greenhouse is nothing but a metal tubings and a plastic. Plastic have to be changed every 4 years. Metal, when it gets rusted, broken, we'll have to weld it up and replace the gutters and all that. So that maintenance will continue to be there. And rest of all is in working condition. For example, it's highly automated nutrition fertigation management system. It's computerized, and those things are perfectly working well. And there would be maintenance for each of them, but that's part of the business there.
Of course, very good.
Very good questions. Please feel free to ask more questions, because that makes it clear to everybody on how we're taking the decisions on these investments.
So, Shashi, when I look at the first piece of land, right, I can see that there is a lot of real estate action happening pretty close to that 30 acres of land. It overall makes sense that, over the time, things can sort of bloat over and, it might just turn into just another piece of, real estate land, right?
Right.
Now, when you look at number 2 and number 3, right, what is happening around it? General trends, right? Are people just quitting their land and, selling it off, or they're just flourishing and staying and hanging on to it?
No, not really. That's a very sad scenario there, what's happening in Florida, especially with citrus. If you look at around the 100-acre land, these are all citrus groves. And citrus farmers have enjoyed lots of money 15 years back. Everybody was rich, at least because they were getting $3,500 to $4,000 per acre of profit at that point of time. So now the same scenario now is maybe $100 of profit, sometimes a loss, right? That's the reason these lands are sold at a cheaper prices. Roughly, these lands are at about $8,500 to $10,000, right? Now, and the farmers, I've been hearing a lot of sad stories wherein, by the way, I need to get back to a few reasons on why the citrus greening as a disease. So 15 years back, 10 to 15 years back, this disease have come into US from a different country just because somebody got an orange tree with that disease. So this disease is spread by a vector called ACP, Asian Psyllid. And this vector is like it holds the bacteria in its gut. And when it sits on the young leaves and tries to suck up the sap for eating its food, the bacteria gets into the tree and enters the sap. And none of the contact fertilizers which are sprayed onto the leaves can kill this bacteria. And it has become very difficult for people to handle this. And many people compare this particular disease with AIDS in the human. The person will not die, but the immunity system will go bad. And so the intake of nutrients will not be very easy for them, right? But at the same time, the person with AIDS, with a proper medication and nutrition, he can live for many years. So the same situation is happening with orange. The tree doesn't die completely. It starts drying off. If you look at the orange, you will see multiple oranges, but it's not a lot. But you will see that the orange is not completely orange in color. It still continues to have green bottom. And the sweetness in the orange doesn't increase. And the measurement of the quality of orange is by the sweetness of it and on the quantity of is produced by each tree. Because of this reduction, Florida is now producing only 1/4 of what it used to produce. And individual farmers are making laws, and then the costs are continue to increase. For example, from last year to this year, fertilizer costs are double. Right, and from 15 years to now, you can imagine how many times it have increased. While the production didn't increase, the costs have increased, but they have to really maintain it, and so they're not making money there. So that's the whole reason why people are getting into issues. And farmers, when they didn't realize that this is going to be a long-standing disease, they started taking money from banks in terms of loan to reset the trees. Reset is a term used when you remove the existing sick tree and put a new one that costs money. For that money, they took loans from the bank, and they continued this for multiple years. Now, the farm is not giving them money, but the bank's interest is raising, and the bank have taken off their lands. So a lot of farmers lost their lands. That's a sad scenario back in Florida. But with all these things, why are everybody still with orange? It's like back in India. Why are we all into just growing paddy? Because we got so used to it, right? And very few people are getting into alternate crops. Here also, there are federal programs to encourage farmers to get into alternate crops. The University of Florida is helping showcasing different alternative crops and conducting seminars and all that. But then people lost the risk appetite, and having seen these losses before, they're not coming forward, and new generation is not coming forward. All the farmers that I interact with are above 60 easily, and that's the reason not many farmers are profitably getting into other ventures, and so your lands are available here.
Yeah,
so
that's
the plans that we are planning sorry, Sada, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Shashikant. Yeah, thanks for the detailed explanation. So that one thing comes in my mind, like, so we are planting this sitafal trees where the orange trees were there. So is any way that the same bacteria remains there and is catching up with this our new plants? Mm-hmm. And what if we have the same struggle or issues? Right. And what? Yeah.
Good question. So sitafal, mango, and none of these plants gets affected with this particular bacteria. And the bacteria is there everywhere. That's because of the vector. Vector is a carrier. So that carrier is always there. So, but then these crops will not be affected. There are not only these crops, there are avocados, there are carambola and guava, and many of these trees, they don't get affected with this bacteria. And there are other.
So that is, so that is specific to only to the citrus, right?
That's why it's called a citrus greening disease.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I live in California, and in Southern California, there are a few places where lemon trees are starting to get impacted with this, and the state is fighting as much as it can. But
right. And if you ask why we can't ship trees and fruits into California, this is the main reason, because California is a major producer of food across the US. And that the state is trying to avoid any kind of pests coming in from other states, especially citrus greening. That's a good point, Visual. Tej, you were asking something?
Yeah, I had two questions. Sada actually asked the first question, so I'll just go to the second one. So typically, off late, you've been seeing a lot of Indian mangoes coming from like Dominican Republic and, some of the Latin American places, right?
Right.
Like you could find, the same Alfonso or the same Kesar and Banginpalli coming from there. Right. But people who really are into the mangoes, they say that it doesn't taste the same. It's dramatically different, right? It's not even close to what we are all used to. Now, assuming, we are doing the sitafal and mangoes here in Florida, where do you see that falling on the spectrum? Would that be closer to, of course, it won't be same as Indian taste, but how far from that desirable taste?
It's been a year at least, I have been roaming in this area of Homestead and other areas. So I have tasted Mallika. I bought and sold here in Atlanta Mallika last year. The taste is excellent. It can never be comparable with Indian taste, but then 3 is always better than 0. So what we had in India is always 10. Yeah. And while there are these mangoes coming from different, another question typically in people's mind is when we can import these mangoes from Southern American countries, which are at a lower cost of labor, what could be our differentiator?
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
Now,
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what we are targeting is not the extreme masses. For the demand that we have, if we need to provide, we need at least, I'm just throwing up a number, few thousand acres of these trees growing, but we are not even close to hundreds of acres here. So our specialty would be farm fresh mango harvested and reaching to the end customer table in 48 hours. Any mango that's coming from any of the country outside the United States, it's at least 4 or 5 days, right? So that's where we are looking at targeting the premium segment and handling our logistics such a way that we would make that available as early as possible to the customer in terms of the freshness. These mangoes are harvested quite raw from the tree to be able to handle the transportation. We would cut down that 2 to 3 days of ripening onto the tree. We would let it start ripening on the tree. That's when we cut it. So that would be our differentiator here. I sold mangoes of Mallika last year, I think at about $10 a pound. And each mango was weighing about a pound easily, and people bought it because of the excellent taste. I don't know if I digressed, so please pull me back into that.
Does California also have restrictions to shipping fruits?
Yeah, you can't ship fruits to California unless you have special permits.
Now, I'm sure, California would be a major customer base for you, right? Especially Bay Area, LA, and those areas, right? People would be dying for some of these tropical, fruits.
Right.
How do you foresee working around that situation?
As I mentioned, I have my other business, Indian Plants and Seeds. We were successfully able to ship our plants into California with all the permits required. So we go through the process of inspectors coming in and verifying for all the specific diseases, and we ensure our practices are catered to those measures in terms of handling without the diseases there. So we would try the same thing there. And there are fruit suppliers who are able to send to California with all these permits. So we would follow the same there.
Don't worry, Shashi. Texas will buy everything California doesn't want.
That's right. That's right.
Also, California is too far from Florida. Send them to Texas.
Who's from California now? Is Tej in California?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Now I see your view there. Okay. We'll figure it out. Or you can come over here and stay there and enjoy the food there.
Hi, Shashi. This is Manohar. I'm also from Southern California.
Okay. Hey, Manohar.
Yeah. And even I ordered seeds from your website this year, and surprisingly, I was really shocked that every seed germinated.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Thank
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for those.
No mangoes for you.
So, Shashikant, one question. It's like, so since we have the challenges in shipping the mangoes to California, so do we have any plans like this? We can procure some land, 100 acres or 200 acres, and we grow mango trees inside California, so that will meet the demand of, the California demand actually. So is that something that we have in the plan, or
on the lighter note, I'm trying to clone myself to handle all the states.
I know it is difficult. I know, completely understood. But considering these challenges, right?
Absolutely. So over a period of time, our way of expanding would be to expand into different locations based on the business needs. If California, in terms of real estate, if we are able to buy them at a right price, and if we know that the appreciation would be great, and meanwhile, if we are able to farm, we will definitely consider that. And anyway, we are structuring our organization to ensure that we have more people who could operate on the ground. And as and when we have the comfort that we have more people handling that, yes, we would definitely do that.
Good.
We're even thinking of getting into neighboring countries like Costa Rica, Belize, and all of that, but it's all in the plan. So what I've realized is that once I moved out of the LLC concept into the C Corp, the opportunities have become unlimited now. We could think of anything and we could get it executed. As long as we are able to carefully execute or spend money and make money out of it, we have unlimited possibilities in that. So as you brought the concept of doing in other states, I'm also talking about doing it in other countries.
Perfect.
Right.
Thanks, Shashi.
We will do it at the right time. We don't want to stretch ourselves too thin at this initial stage. We will set up each of them, make them autopilot mode, have setups where we automate everything and monitoring systems and people to manage, and then we will expand.
Got it.
So a couple of things. How are we ensuring when we are buying lands? I'm from New Jersey, so I'm a lot of PFAS chemicals being used, and whoever has those in their farms, it's strictly you can't do anything further. Kind of things. I read some articles in New Jersey. How are we avoiding or taking care of such things in Florida? Do you know
how the lands are, when all the lands are by default sprayed with all synthetic nutrients and pesticides. None of them are organic.
Okay.
So
PFAS is some chemicals which are not supposed to be in the food, which is there in some of those lands. And yeah, so
okay, that way all the lands are part of the USDA programs. In the sense, all the crop reporting happens with the USDA, and especially the 100 acres. It has the packing house, a 10,000 square feet of packing house where we pack fruits. So we have the permits from food authorities, and all those approvals are all there. So that's a confirmation that we don't have these issues there in those lands.
Okay. So we're not getting into any organic. It's all
no. Only in Okeechobee land where we have the greenhouses, we have the possibility of getting into organics with the hydroponics, right? Which means that we are going to grow into a cocoa coir medium and have the USDA certified organic nutrients. That's where we could quickly become organic. None of the other lands, we won't even try that because that's a long drawn process and it's time consuming, efforts consuming, and money consuming.
Are we planning to go for any kind of farms like chicken or anything like that?
Not in the plan with us, because we always look at what's the effort to make the dollar, and we would always look at the easier ones. And I won't say easier ones, the smarter ones. So anything to do with the live animals, it's going to be very tough. So we'll not get into that. We may have some pet animals, but then not really for business purpose there.
Got it.
Yeah, Shashi. So regarding the live, see, for example, so do you have any plans like?
So can others mute on, please? Yeah, go ahead, Sudha.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So like we see that the fish, the salmon and farm raised salmon and farm raised prawns are here very much costly. So do we have any plans like we can segregate some of the acres and we can raise freshwater prawns, and because it is a high yielding and high revenue, so do we have any plans to add that too?
Yeah, we're going to add that, but not into open farming, especially the Okeechobee land where we have 5 acres of greenhouse. We would like to put a commercial aquaculture in the greenhouse, not in the open, in the ponds.
Yeah, because it needs, yes, understood. That's why. So we have a huge greenhouse here. So definitely we can try out something which will be giving some high yield in a quicker time.
Right. See, now all my concepts have been into precision farming for the past many years. The reason I'm getting into that is that we have control on many elements. And especially with aquaculture, which is highly possible growing in a greenhouse, we would be able to make a good amount of money with high profitability. So we would do small pilots, and then we will expand into the greenhouses. The current greenhouses, we're using it for growing cucumber, and it's going to Walmart. Wherever you see a brand seedless, the sticker that's coming from one of these greenhouses. It may not be crossing Florida because the consumption is quite high in Florida itself, so you would see them here. Yeah, by the way, yeah, to answer your question, yes, we would get into aquaculture too.
Yeah, because it's the prices are going skyrocket now, so, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Shashi. Yeah.
Any questions from anybody? All right, so in terms of farming, we have already planted over 300 sitafal trees in our 100 acres, and there are fully grown 4+ year-old sitafal trees, which we were able to buy from a farmer who has to vacate his lease land. So we bought it from him, relocated them from homestead all the way to our farm in Fort Pierce. We planted them, so we're expecting them to be yielding this year itself because they already have have flowers, and hoping that there is no transplantation shock, we would have the yield this year itself. We have already opened it for pre-orders. We already have about $5,000 of revenue from the pre-orders, so which we would be selling, shipping to them once we have these fruits on August, starting September till about November. We are also planting a lot of coconut trees. Coconut trees mainly for the aesthetics and a feel of India, feel of home, and we're expecting green coconut from there. And we also purchased this quite mature trees, and it's like a deal. We got a very good deal, and then we bought all of them. It was a major task to relocate them, and we were able to do it. And we are now set up the whole 100-acre farm, not whole 100-acre farm, a good amount of 100-acre farm with all these mature trees. We've also invested into soursop. Soursop is not very known in Indian circles, but it's very famous in Spanish circles, and we are targeting Spanish people, and maybe we're also trying to introduce to our Indian community. And we have about 40 well-grown, the bottom picture is the soursop, and we have these trees planted, and I also have about 1,000 more soursop trees which we are planting. We have a great crew. This is Mr. Walt from Blue Goose Company. Entire 100 acres is handled by them with their machinery. All this machinery that you see is from them. So we outsource this into contracts, and they do a spraying, fertilizer, spraying, pesticide, weed management, and everything for us at a cost. And the below crew is our manual help, where anything to do with the hand labor, they would help us with. Mr. Adrian is from Mexico, and has become a real partner for us because they're all across the 100 acres. Many neighbors are very interested to know about what we are doing, because they have not seen anything other than citrus around, and they're quite curious, and they're very interested to learn from us. So it's been a great working environment there. Any questions on this?
Shashi,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
just a quick question, Riaz, and then you can go. So I saw your video about like where you were planning, like 30 feet and 100 feet. It was quite fascinating how you were planning it. As you're going through this exercise, right? Are you even considering how you could make your farm immune to, I don't know if it is even practical, immune to hurricanes or wind gusts and things like that? Yeah. On strategically planting windbreakers around the periphery. I don't know, I'm just making up shit here, right? So you're the expert.
We are learning, by the way. We're learning every time by talking to the people. And so especially for the wind, this is a high wind prone area, the land we have. So we are planting lots of bamboo all around. It's a asper bamboo that we are going to plant. And the two advantages of that, this grows fast and they multiply. And at the same time, these are not running bamboo. There are two types of bamboos, running bamboo and clumping bamboo. Running bamboo are invasive. It gets into the neighbors, and it's not allowed to be planted. So we are planting clumping bamboo. The biggest advantage of this bamboo is the shoots are edible, and there's a big business out of it. Each shoot, each pound of shoot is sold at about $2 a pound at a farm gate, and there's a huge demand for that. And this also grows very fast and multiplies, and this acts as a wind barrier. So in our area, our winds are mostly from south to west. So we are planting
southeast to west. Yeah.
Southeast, yeah. Not the wind, I would say. One is the wind, also the cold gust is from south to east. So that's where we are strategically planting these bamboos there.
Great.
People typically use eucalyptus. We're not going to go for eucalyptus trees because they don't give us any money. But the bamboo, while helping us with the wind barriers, it also gives us money because of the shoots. So that's why we have strategically decided on that. Good. Riaz, you have a question?
Yeah, you said that you moved these plants from Homestead, Sasi.
That's
so looking at the location for Fort Pierce versus Homestead, I'm in south of Miami. I mean, Florida is truly subtropical, right? So we kind of briefly chatted about it, the concerns about frost and the how much of a risk is that when you move it further north?
Ideal location for growing tropicals would be Homestead with a zone 10B, right? But then we have productive crops growing in Central, which is frost-proof, Tampa, Orlando, Lake Wales, in those areas also. So that way we are less risky. And even if there is an issue with the freeze, all the sugar apple trees are going to shed the leaves, but they will pop up, they'll come back. Especially these at this maturity stage, they will survive very well.
Thank you.
There ever be a need to cover them up with that would be become a big problem if
we'll not be able to cover while it looks like a small area. This is over 1,000 running feet, and it's vast when you look at it. So there's no way we can cover them up.
So there will not be a need also, right?
There will be a need, but we can't make it. So we will let them go through the shock. We will let them shed the leaves, and we'll let them come back. There are few practices, especially if you look at in the bottom, you see a small microjets there. They are used for irrigation. It's not a drip. They spray water for about 3 feet radius. So during the freeze time, the idea is to water them throughout the freeze. The water, which is picked up from the earth, is at about 70 degrees, and it's going to bring that warmth onto the area, and that's like it creates a small little microclimate. That's one of the practice everybody uses it to battle the frost. So we will try some of those things, but there's no way we would cover them. We can't cover them.
Thank you.
Right, so we got about 300 mature sugar apple, 40 we talked about soursop, and yeah, I think we covered all of them. By the way, I just got some tamarind trees, some jackfruit, sampangi, black sapote, custard apple. Custard apple is different from sugar apple. What we call custard apple in India is sitapal, but actual sitapal is sugar apple. Custard apple is a little different. It's red, kind of pinkish in color. And we got some goji berry, guava, carambola. Carambola is a star fruit. We got all of them just to have our fruit orchard there.
Are we not thinking about usuri? What do you call gooseberry?
Gooseberry, yes, we are thinking about that.
Star gooseberry.
Right, both round and the star. We're trying to import the seeds from India. We'll be getting into that very soon. And also Neredu.
Jumbo. Okay, jumbo.
Yeah.
This sampangi is the Indian one, the green one?
The yellow one. We have green also. Simhachalam sampangi is the yellow one, right?
I'm not sure of yellow one, but I know of green one only.
So it's called Michelia champaka, the yellow one, and Michelia alba, that's a green one. So we're getting both of them. All right, so
hey, Sasi, Roshan here.
Hi, Roshan.
Hey. So some of them are bulk, right? But some of them 20 trees and those kind of things. So what is the logic behind? Because you will not have a steady supply, then how do we take it to market?
Sampangi is just for aesthetics of our farm, to have the fragrance all around. That is just, we just got them for aesthetic purpose. But then we are getting a lot of seeds and we're going to grow them in thousands to sell them.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I've listed is just for the aesthetics here, just to plant them around the farm.
Okay.
But then 30,000 sugar apple plants, this is for actual sale.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
We would be the largest supplier of sugar apple across the United States. There's nobody who would be doing that scale.
Are ice apples a possibility, or?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Ice apples?
Ice apple is the water.
Palm fruit.
Yeah,
Sorry?
palm fruit, yes.
A palm fruit. Right. Yeah. We identified somebody who could sell the seeds, but we haven't got any success. But then we'll be trying that out. I think a lot of people are waiting for the toddy from that.
Oh yeah.
Shashi, count me in.
I can read everybody's mind here.
Are you in phase 1 to get it?
Yeah. No. So we'll say phase 1 and 2 will get toddy now, because we need to push people to get them into the earlier phases now.
That's an early morning boost juice.
Exactly. So it makes everybody talk even in the meeting now.
Yep. And then start the work, start IT work, yeah, whatever work you do.
That's right.
Hi, Shashi, Hitesh here.
Hey, Hitesh.
I have this one question. Though guava is in high demand, I think you have covered this in the past, but can you elaborate why you are not getting into the guava farming and guava trees?
It's not that we're not getting, we would get that into very soon, but not in the 100 acres, not in the
as sugar apples you're talking about.
I'm sorry?
So sugar apples, your sugar apples and other tropical fruits, your primary focus, right?
Right.
But why you're not doing guava at such a large scale?
If you look at Homestead, everybody has started scraping any other trees and getting into guava, because they have realized that there is a good demand, and people are already seeing that the demand is slowing down because there is a lot of supply, right? And that's the reason we are primarily focusing on anything other than guava at this point. But as a diversification, we will still have about 5 to 10 acres of guava very soon, but not in the 100 acres, because guava has the fruit fly, and fruit fly is the biggest problem, and it's a banned, any tree that could host fruit fly is banned in this 100 acres. So we'll not go in that. Maybe in the 35 acres, we still have a lot of space. That's where we will go for that, or any further lands that we're going to procure. One advantage with guava is that it can start fruiting in year, starting second year beginning itself, and it produces a lot. So as long as we are able to sell it at a right price, it makes a lot of sense for us to get into that.
So do you anticipate such kind of saturation for our sugar apple or custard apple? Like
Yes.
you mentioning about the guava, right? So
yes, and we're hoping for that. The reason we are hoping for that is that we would have an early starter advantage with sugar apple, custard apple, and as we are getting into the nursery, when everybody wants to grow, we are the people to sell them the trees. Selling the trees is much more smarter way of making money by increasing the people and encouraging the people to grow. And our idea is not to sell sugar apple only and make money. We can sell sugar apple trees and make money.
but when you hit that saturation point, the price per pound would come down, right? Because many growers would be in the market competing to cater the same customers.
Right, exactly. So as we are focusing on the nurseries, as we would be selling them the trees, we would be in a good position. But the trees that we have planted may be making less money, but the trees that we have planted in those number of years would be maturing and giving much more production. And so we would be in a great shape. And how much ever I see, how much ever number of acres that gets in, I do not see that it would get into that kind of situation where we'll not be able to sell. The price would drop for sure, and we would definitely hope for that.
Okay, so at that point, probably we'll be making money in different areas of the business than this. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
And we will constantly evolve into different fruits, different trees growing and all that. I mean, that's the reason. See, if we stick with just a tropical fruits, then we are not diversifying. We are into a risk. Because of our number of lines of businesses, we constantly innovate and get into the any upcoming one and be the front ender for that. And we become the supplier of those, I would say, the herds. So, and we would sell them the trees.
Okay, other question is, I know you've been talking about procuring the lands and then starting from the scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So is this idea of, leased farming, is it something that fits into our business model, or
very unlikely, because if you look at a primary goal is to buy land, sell it at a profit in 10-15 years. Now, in a leased land, we will not have that advantage. That's the reason we'll not really get into the leased land.
Okay.
So that's an option when we have a problem with
even that does profits. I mean, for example, people have lands, but they're not willing to farm, but at the same time, they're not willing to sell it off. So
no, we don't have that issue. There are enough people who are willing to sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Shashi, another model probably you might be considering already is buying land and contracting it or leasing it to the same owner, so that we don't do anything. We will make minimum percentage or some contracting money every year. We will not do any operations.
Yeah,
I think AgTech does a lot.
AgTech, something like that. Yes, that's in the plans. Yes. Especially in one of the land that we are looking in Homestead, which is going to be in the future, very near future, has about 10 acres of land with nursery. It's leased out to a nursery. There is a steady income. So if we buy that land, we will use maybe a couple of acres to have our base in Homestead for our trading business. But rest of the acreage, we will rent it out to the nursery and make have a steady income from that. That's a decent, good income there.
Excellent. Yeah.
And in your model, let's say if you buy a couple of hundreds of acres and if we lease it out for $300, $400 per acre, we continue to get an appreciation, continue to get the tax agriculture exemption and the revenue from that. So it's not our idea to land in hundreds of acres. Farm in hundreds of acres. It's our idea to buy hundreds of acres, wait for appreciation, farm how much ever possibly profitably, and sell it at a profit. But our focus would be to get into precision farming. We would go for much more number of greenhouses, but not larger acreage of farming as such. Right, any questions?
Hi, Shashi. I have two main questions. One is with in terms of raising money in the later stages, because this is new area. What do you think are when we go to insurers or banks to raise capital? How should we position as a? Because I see the business already makes money, so there is some the valuation definitely exceeds there.
Right.
But if you want to raise more money down the road, instead of investor route to take the bank road, what do you think? How that works out in your view?
Well, in a typical business terms, which I've been learning for past few months, we need to raise the capital at the lowest of the expense. Right now, raising the capital from institutes at a lower percentage is always better instead of diluting the company. So in those scenarios, when we go for a bank, especially let's say when we go as a company to the bank and say that we wanted to buy a piece of land and show our credentials, we can show the income that we are going to generate from these lands that we are generating now and the income that we'll be generating from the greenhouse, etc. These are all everything on the book. We have a $1.2 million of income and profitability. We have books for that in the earlier company from the other owner, but then we may not be able to show that. But once we start running it ourselves, we should be able to show that. And banks at the end of the day, they want to lend you money because they want to make their interest. And so looking at the risks in that, they would definitely offer it. And another idea of making raising capital without the lending is to dilute the company and get more capital from the investors, but at a higher valuation. The way we can make a higher valuation is by making money and making profits. So for a simple example, initially we were thinking of raising the valuation to $20 million next year and raise another $4 million on top of $6 million that we're going to raise this year. But we never had greenhouse available when we are making the initial plans. But because of this high revenue greenhouse coming in, we should be able to valuate our company at a much higher valuation and still raise $4 million, but at a much higher valuation. Imagine what can happen to the initial phase investors. Their per share, the valuation of the company increases and the share increases for them. So that way we could also get a capital at much lesser cost. Does it make sense?
Understood. One other question is with, I mean, anyone who has farm in India, they know what the prices of ammonia and everything is pretty much like timber in US, right? They're going up very steeply. So are you seeing these effects already in the contracts with the maintenance companies? And
yeah, since last year to this year, it's almost doubled up.
Okay.
All the nutrients, calcium nitrate is one of the biggest nutrient used, and the cost of it has increased. And we're hoping that something would change by mid of the year. So we'll have to wait and watch there. But there's no other way because we're so much dependent on that. And the only thing that we have in control is spending that same or higher cost, but making higher revenue with alternate crops and crops in high demand and making that profit. So the cost of nutrients is definitely not in our control. All right, any questions? This is the org structure that we have finalized as of last week. We have 5 board of directors. That includes me. We have Sharath Vemuri, Prabhakar Mamudipudi, Prabhakar Pathakota, and Prabhakar and Butla. The idea of board of directors is everybody looks at this entire company as just me. And the idea is to tell everybody that it's not just me. There is a governance, there's a compliance, there's everything available in terms of the structure. In terms of the operations, it's just me. I'm looking forward for anybody to come over and be on the ground and also be with me to handle this. So far, I haven't found anybody. I can understand why, because of everybody has their own jobs and everything, but it's also being on the ground full time. It seems to be a very interesting and highly promising career for anybody. But the moment we have somebody, we will have somebody operational on the ground with me. In terms of executive officers, we have Sharath and Prabhakar, who are volunteer CFO and the secretary, who are helping me already with the various funding rounds, various concepts. I think I can always go for an MBA right away and pass because of the concepts that I've learned past few months, thanks to all of them. And our attorney who have been helping us with that. And Harini is our CPA, whom we are working with in terms of our bookkeeping and everything there. So this is our structure. Any questions on this?
So we don't have to pay like a salary or something for the directors?
No, it's not that we don't have to. We don't have a plan to. They are the volunteer.
For now, I'm asking.
Yeah. They are all the volunteer directors.
Okay. And my other question is, so when we come into this payment structure mode for everybody who are employed, will this be put in plan, like what the cash flow, what the revenue, and how much the salary is going to be, and will it get?
Yeah. So none of the people here are salaried except for me. Here is my salary structure. There are three parts that I have divided my salary. Is a founder CEO equity, founder CEO compensation, and the bonus. Right. The equity is we are valuating the company at 10 million, and I'm holding the pre-money equity, pre-money valuation of 4 million and raising a 6 million capital. And that's where we are calculating it to be total of 10 million. Out of 4 million, we're separating into 3 million of common shares and 1 million of preferred shares. The whole idea is that when the company makes profits, that's when these common shares comes into picture. Everybody who's investing 6 million into the 6 million round, all will have the preferred shares. At any point, anything happens, everybody gets the money, and if we make profits, I would get this 3 million. That's the equity part of it. I will come back to this for any questions, but let me complete this part. So my salary would be 5% of the capital raised and capped at max of 500K. That is when we raise 10 million. So as and when we raise, the way we are structuring is that for every month we calculate, and depending on the capital raised so far, my salary would be calculated for a year at 5% and would be pro rata. We haven't started taking any salaries because we want this to be in a right shape first, and then we will get into that. That's about 5% for every million. And the bonus aspect of it. As a CEO, my job would be to increase the valuation of the company so that every investor, the share value increases. How do I increase the valuation of the company? Increase the profitability, increase the revenues. And also raising the capital is very important for running the show. So I have kept I wouldn't say carrots, but I've kept some of the motivation factors as any capital that is raised on top of 0.5 million, half a million, 400K, will have 5% of the capital raised in the form of shares, which will be vested over a period of time, right? And then when we raise the valuation, based on the difference of the valuation, 10% of the valuation would be in terms of the shares. Now, whenever people look at these numbers, it looks as if there's a lot of money in that, absolutely a lot of money, but then all this money is after the investor makes their money. The whole idea we're trying to set this up is for everybody to make money, otherwise nobody would have a motivation to be part of it. And so we have structured the entire compensation in 3 different ways and explain all of them. So I would be sharing this particular presentation for everybody to consume and come back with any questions. I can take any questions even now, but if anybody wants to talk to me in person with any questions, feel free to do that.
So Shashi, this is
Shashi, this is
so
Prasad.
question is,
hold on, Prasad. Let's start with
this an industry that I don't know about, and I'm learning a lot from you.
Yeah.
So the sweat equity and the different type of compensation makes sense.
Right.
So compared to other startups and in similar fields, I mean, how does it compare? Of course, that is a due diligence that I have to do for myself,
right.
But I'm asking you.
Right. Well, we couldn't see any comparables, etc. in this one. So we have set up a baseline here, and it's all. We tried looking at any other similar industries, but then we couldn't find anything. So we have set up a base here, and this is the proposals that we made, and we're going with that one.
Thank you.
Hey, Prasad.
Sorry, I don't know whether this is the right time to bring this question, but are you planning for any family picnic or anything like that?
Absolutely. So we had one day wherein 6 of our investors have joined us, and then we did a lot of work, and we would continue doing the sessions. And Also, we would have a lot of family gatherings, and by the time we close the third property, we will have 2 full-fledged homes where we could all stay there. I hope that's the question you asked. You asked about the family picnic, right?
That's correct. Yep, you answered that. Thank you.
Right. So I can understand some of the hesitations anybody may have. Please call me in terms of any of these compensation questions. I understand why anybody would hesitate to ask any questions in the public forum. So please feel free to call me and we can talk about it.
Yes, this is Sunil. First of all, I'm trying to understand this first. But when we go back to the first page, you said 3 million common shares and 1 million preferred shares, or the other way around, right? What's the? So I know there was a 3 and a 1. So what's the difference? Is that based on?
Sure. Let's take an example. We are raising 6 million capital, right? We got all the capital. For some reason, we need to dilute the company. Now, preferred shares are the people who would get the first preference to get the money back, right? And then if any money is left, then that's when the common shares will get the money.
Okay.
That's the difference. So I'm putting a lot of my shares into the risk by taking the common shares.
Okay. So all the investors, when you do the priced valuation, priced fundraising, all the investors will hold preferred shares, right?
Yeah, everybody will get preferred shares for this round of entire 6 million. For the next round of 4 million for the next year, we will open for all common shares, which means imagine a situation, we have 4 more million coming into the company at a valuation of 20+ million. And if at any point of time, all the investors who have invested in this first round, which is 6 million, have the preferred shares. At any point of time, they are the safest people there. That's because they have got into the initial rounds. And next 4 million is something which we are getting into the regulatory crowdfunding round. So we would have the minimum as $5,000 or $10,000 and get the money from about 1,000 to 2,000 people. So that's where we will allot all the common shares with a higher risk for all of them.
So the company is currently valued at 3 million with your equity coming into the
no equity coming in. It's all the sweat equity. The current value, pre-money valuation of the company is 4 million, capital raise is 6 million, and the post-money valuation of the company is 10 million.
No, I didn't get it. Like the current valuation is 3 million?
4 million. 4 million.
4 million.
Right.
Okay. And the preferred shares will be allotted for all the investors.
Yes.
Up to 6 million.
Right.
Is it going to be all same priced?
No. For each phase, there would be a different price. The phase 1 will have a price that is lower than phase 2, and so is 3 and 4. That's the reason for people to come in the early stage. That's a motivation for people to come into early stage.
Okay.
Right. So if I take an example of 90 cents per share for a phase 1, which is an example, the price per share would be 95 cents in the phase 2, and $1 in phase 3, and $1.2 in phase 4. Right. It would be my ability or responsibility to sell the shares at that price by way of showing the progress, by way of selling the whole concept and raising the capital. Imagine a situation when we are in the 4th round, when the share price is at $1.2, when we raise a 1.5 million. Look at the value of first phase and second phase investors' share. It's equal to 1.2, which they have bought at 90 cents or 95 cents. That's the whole idea of multiple stages, now multiple phases.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So by when are we planning to have this shares model? As of now, we are going with the promissory note.
Right.
When it would switch?
We are hoping, we wouldn't call it as a switch or conversion at all. We have taken the money from the lenders with a promise of 6% interest. We will repay them back. And later, we will open it up for the price round. And we're expecting that to be by end of the month, or maybe first week of May. We're getting very close to the documentation, and to take a deeper dive, we are getting into 504 funding model. We are contemplating between 504 and 506B. I will send you all a video to understand the difference between all of them. The documentation for 504 requires state blue sky lots to be filed in each and every state where the investor comes from. So that's where there are delays that's happening, and we are hoping that that would be done by end of the month, and we should be able to open up a price round after that.
So the money would be returned back, and then we need to take the shares again.
I'm sorry?
So you're saying the money would be returned back?
That's right. That's right.
And then we need to take the shares.
That's right. Yes. So it's not a convertible note which automatically converts into the shares. You would have heard the concepts of convertible note and SAFE. This is none of those. We are simple promissory note where we are taking the money and we are returning the money.
So at that time, we'll be following the same what we have done to raise the first phase and second phase, right?
Exactly.
So based the soft commit, or based on the date they've committed for the projects in phase 1 and phase 2, and then move on to phase 2 and phase 4.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Sasi. So when we are saying valuation of the company at each phase, is this the value we are assigning, or is it something like a appraisal?
We are assigning.
Okay.
So the valuation of the company is looked into multiple ways, right? The idea of the company, the possibilities of the idea, and the execution team, and the data behind that idea. So that's where we are evaluating that. For example, we projected the Sitafal at a certain number of acres, number of trees per acre, amount of production per tree, and from which year the production would be coming out, what would be the typical farm gate value of the Sitafal, what would be the cost of growing that, and what would be the profitability, and multiplied into the number of acres, the possibility of revenue in those. So that's how we evaluate this. And some of the things that we can't really measure is the ideas and then the experience that I'm bringing in. That's where it's getting into the sweat equity pre-money valuation. Because 6 million, which is a straightforward real cash, but the sweat equity that I'm bringing is valued at 4 million, and so the total of 10 million is where we're coming across.
So if we were to sell the company tomorrow, say for example, after the purchases of the acres, then somebody should be willing to buy for 10 million, then only
absolutely
everything makes sense. Otherwise, you will be at a loss for your valuation of 3 million, and the investors would be at a loss for 6 million, what they're bringing in.
So here is where our strategies are. But out of 6 million, or how much ever we raise, even 20-30 million over a period of time, always we would invest 50 to 55% into the real estate, right? Appreciating real estate by identifying the ones which are getting in the towns and the way of these appreciations. And the rest of 45 to 50%, which we are investing into the working capital, we would always ensure we were investing into something which is already making money, which will have high chances of making money. The example is our greenhouse, which is already making money with the profitability. So it's a startup. Look at a startup like this. There are high possibilities of making money. There are chances of not being able to make money. Everybody is investing with the hope that this startup would get into the high profitable business, and everybody's money would get into the would multiply. We're all working, each one of you are investing your hard-earned money because of that hope, and I am investing my career and life into this with that hope. That's where we are sharing the risks and profits.
Yeah, and your life and experience is coming as a common share. So even if the company were to be valued at a lesser price, the 50% of real estate would at least compensate to a certain extent, and the rest of the 50% of valuation would be taken as a loss for the investors, including yourself, because you're as a common shareholder, right?
That's right. That's right. That's where I'm putting my skin in the game, by taking the common share and by ensuring that investors would get their money.
Okay.
So we will all be benefited, and I will make a lot of money only when we make this company profitable. Otherwise, everybody would lose their money. I would lose my everything, including my career, which I would be coming out. By the way, I'm planning to come out by end of the year, the moment we raise 6 million. And that's the risk that I'm putting for myself into. I mean, it's not a favor I'm doing for anybody. It's my passion, and I believe in this, and I'm putting all this to make more money when the company makes more profits.
Will you be sharing the data analysis or the valuation which you're talking about, like the profitability case analysis?
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
And Sasi, the 90 cents, 95 cents, $1, 1.1, the numbers that you mentioned, is that just illustration, or that is decided?
It's considered to be illustration for now. You would find the actual numbers in the term sheet that you would be receiving along with the documentation for the price round. But it's a close in the illustration, I would say. Does it answer your question, Riaz?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions from anybody? And this is where I have explained my skin in the business. We talked about all of this, but then I will let you guys read once I send you the PDF format of this. And my business disclosures. So today I'm able to do this because of all my other involvement in all the businesses, like greenhouse farming in India, tropical fruit farming in US, online sales, plants and seeds in US, investments in farm assets in India and US, tropical fruits and vegetable trading in US. I have been doing this. So I'm disclosing all this to ensure that even in the future, there won't be any conflicts. My promise or my attempt would be to ensure all our businesses are collaborative with each other, and together we make much more money. And because of my 40% equity, it's in my definite interest to ensure that this company makes a lot of profits. So I have described in multiple sentences. I'll be sharing this and you can have a look at it, and it will also be part of the PPM that we would be submitting. We have thought about business continuity and governance in case of incapacitation of me for many reasons, right? Our board of directors would handle the activities. It may be difficult to handle the actual business aspect of it, but then these are the unfortunate scenarios that we are planning what happens in terms of, let's say, selling of the land, dissolving the company, making sure the money is reaching to the investors. That's where the role of board of directors comes into picture. Right? And expansion and team building, would be constantly looking for somebody who would be part of the team to ensure that there is a second in line command to run the business operations, because assets is easy to handle, to dissolve, but then running the business operations, if it is all in my mind, it would become difficult. But then at this point, we don't have a choice. So that's where we are. So, but we would constantly be looking at somebody who would also work with me and be the backup. And governance of the company. So we have board of directors, they will represent the investors and oversee the governance part of it. And any sale of the company asset, it won't be unilateral decision by me. It could be well discussed. We will have the majority based on the discussions. At any major decisions, there would be a vote from the investors, and there are multiple checks and balances are kept in place. And we have periodic reporting. And if you are part of our WhatsApp group, I think you would know my life much better once you see in the WhatsApp group. Every activity you would be seeing the reporting there. And we will have the financial status updates, general statutory updates, everything we would plan. And we will have monthly meetings of monthly reports that we would be sending across based on this strategy that we come across. Maybe we would have the whole of investor meet at a periodicity, which we would plan and confirm to everybody. And we will also be working on creating certain portals to handle the cap tables. We are thinking of Kata to manage the cap table in terms of investments, in terms of share certificates, and for investors to be able to see their documents. And we are building up our websites to see the constant updates. We are already publishing our videos, photos, status updates, everything in our Facebook, which is a closer investor group. So all that would continue. Our idea is to make it completely transparent, and at the same time, watching the progress of the company itself is a fun activity for everybody. So we wanted to ensure that everybody is able to participate. And we encourage all the investors to come over and be part of the activities. You can always check with me when I'm there in Florida. Most of the times I would be in Florida, and you can have a plan and come over and experience the whole journey by yourself. All right, so the exit plan. Whenever you buy the shares, how would you exit? There are multiple ways. One is an IPO. When we get into that, that's a great scenario. Merger or acquisition with another company. Buyback of shares by the company at the discretion of the company. Whenever we have the surplus of money, when we offer share buyback, that would be an opportunity for you to sell. Dissolution of the company, that would be not a great scenario. And secondary market. This is something which we are trying to work with the attorneys to see how is the model going to be. There are options, but then we're trying to get more details, and then we're going to distribute that information. So at some point, maybe next year, we plan to go with a start engine type of crowdfunding, regulatory crowdfunding. In that case, start engine offers a secondary market. We're focusing and we're working on that.
So Shashi, did we not mention anything about the locking period here?
Yes, we mentioned the locking period in the upfront disclaimers itself.
Oh, okay.
It's a good point. So we are saying, please note that the investment is not liquid and locked for minimum of 5 years, because the activity of farming as such is going to be time consuming. Let's say when we put sitafal, when we make all these mangoes and all of them, they take minimum 3 years. 4th year is somewhere where we start getting some fruit. 5th year is where we start making money. But while there are other aspects of farm that we are getting into, for example, greenhouses, which is already making money, but our idea is to set an expectation for everybody that if you're investing into this, please consider minimum locking period of 5 years. And I just want to avoid anybody's disappointment when you need the money and when you want to take back when we're not in a position to get you an exiting out of this. All right, I'm going to share this document as a PDF to everybody who have joined this call. If you're not getting this, please ping me and I will send this across. And this is in no way a solicitation for investment. This is an explanation of the model. As soon as we get the documentation with SEC filed, we would open up with a formal term sheet and PPM. That's when you can consider the investments. So far, anybody who is interested in joining us, you could join us with a promissory note. We are offering a 6% of annual interest, and you could be part of our different phases. Any questions?
So the interest rate that you're talking about, was it, the legalities of it, did you look into it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the documents everybody is signing is drafted by an attorney, and that's a promissory note with details of the interest and the term of.
Okay. I had one suggestion here. You're saying minimum of 5 years. Is it 5 years from the inception of the farm or from the date they put in the money?
Put in the money. Let's consider that to be put in the money.
Okay, that I think just make it clear there so that people won't be wondering.
Yeah, sure.
How about
Also,
liabilities and all? Liabilities, did you think about?
All the farms, as a company, we're taking insurance. We have insurance for the directors. We have liability insurance for all the activities on the farm. That's the liabilities you're talking about, right?
Yeah, because I work in insurance industry and the financial services, so that's important.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. For example, our packing house of 10,000 square feet, we're taking insurance, and that covers a little bit of equipment. We're trying to set what's the value of that equipment to be. And general liability insurance is something which we are taking. And especially when we're getting into the greenhouse, there is a 14-member crew that we would be taking over. We would get into workman compensation insurance and a lot of liability insurance and everything there.
Did the company move its incorporation from Florida to Delaware?
Yes.
I got surprised when I got the note and I realized, oh, okay.
Right. So January beginning, we started with the C Corp in Florida before we got into a new attorney, but then we had to discontinue with the earlier attorney, and then we went with a well-known local famous attorney in these areas, and he suggested that we create this company as a Delaware corporation. So we quickly dissolved the first one, which we have created in Florida, and we have opened in Delaware.
So do we have an address or something in Delaware, or we can just have a company?
Oh, we have a, what do you call them? The agents. We use
registered agent.
Registered agent for that purpose. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I heard there are a lot of benefits to have a company in Delaware versus any other state.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So if there are no questions, we will end the call, and I will share the recording of this call with everybody and the document. And please feel free to ping me with any questions. I'm sure there are lots of topics that we discussed, and if you have any specific questions, feel free to ping me and we can discuss about that. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time. Yes, was there a question?
No, thanks. I think this was good.
Thanks, Shashi. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Shashi.
Thank you all for
Bye.
joining. Bye-bye.